Welcome to another episode of the House Huddle Podcast. Here are your hosts, Rob Schwartz and Justin Onayemi, two Bears fans who decided talking into a microphone was better than shouting at their television.
Welcome into the House Huddle's Sweet 16 birthday, episode 16 of season 1. I sound happy. It's not going to last. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not in a good mood. Before we get into it, let me just say, as always, I'm your co-host, Rob Schwartz, and again, almost as always is for me, Justin's been on point since the season started, so always my co-host, Justin Onayemi. How are you?
All right. I'm doing well, Rob. This is Justin Onayemi. And, with you being Rob Schwartz, I think they're going to hear today you're fire. So I got to try to balance you off. We're going to be fire and ice.
Yeah.
Shout out, new girl.
Ham and cheese.
We didn't rehearse. We should have rehearsed. We're going to have fun with this pod. There's so much to talk about. Reminds me of a good old saying from my pops. I feel like a mosquito at a nudist colony. Where do you begin? There's so much to break down here, Rob.
We're going to begin with, so Justin and I got to watch the game together again.
We broke our winning streak.
Yeah,
The only game we watched together was Houston prior to this,
yes.
And they pulled off the W.
But we're gonna start with me probably scaring some of my kids and Justin's kids as I'm screaming at the TV. Why is Sam Mustipher still starting for the Chicago Bears? Why?
Some people think he has photos of people, but I think
it's a new regime.
It's a new regime, exactly. Like, that's pretty quick to just get right on that.
Like, is it Virginia he's got photos of?
Oh.
Do those exist?
Okay, this is a reminder we have the explicit rating. But that might cross some kind of line, so let's not go there. But
it's a good thing that we have the explicit rating for this episode, because I'm going to have to bite my tongue with swearing a lot.
Okay, we still try to avoid it, but sometimes it just comes out of you. There's a player you want to talk about and get mad at? Are we holding off?
I'm going to start with Sam Mustipher first.
Okay.
I have two. So let me start out by saying prior to this game, stated that I would be okay with them losing as long as I saw progress. And we saw progress, right?
We did, absolutely. We're going to talk about it.
But I didn't know the context of the game, obviously, is what we were going to see. Hindsight 2020, I shouldn't have tweeted that because I'm pissed. And Sam Mustipher is the first one. Watching him snap a ball as Justin Fields is in the process of trying to take advantage or change up the
call an audible.
Yeah, well,
or
I don't know
call
if
out a hot route,
an
something.
audible,
He's
but he was
communicating
definitely changing the protection packages.
Exactly.
Right? And Sam Mustipher snaps the ball and almost cost them because thank goodness they recovered it. But that's just one. And he shouldn't have been starting the game to begin with. I wrote an article first thing this morning on Bear Goggles On. Go check it out. I have my starting 5 there. We're not going to talk about it, but it does not include Sam Mustipher. He needs to go.
So this is week 5, and I want to say we've talked about a missed snap in every single game.
All but one.
And that's just a fundamental thing that shouldn't be happening. I mean, this is a loud stadium, notoriously hard place to play on the road, and you got to go silent count and all that kind of stuff. But that's not the hits principle.
No.
Making mistakes that are just easy to avoid. So I want to also start with the Vikings win the coin toss. I mean, this is really deep analysis here. But I don't know the statistics. I would say 80% of the time, the team that wins it says, defer, we want the ball in the second half.
Yeah.
Vikings are like, nah, we just want to stomp you out right from the beginning.
And it worked.
They just did everything they wanted on the first drive and the second drive.
And the third drive.
17. Cousins 17 for 17. Yeah. Sets a Vikings record. I was saying to you, Rob, how many times are people going to set records on this defense? Saquon last week, most carries he's ever had in his career in a game. This week, Cousins sets a Vikings record for most consecutive completions. Jefferson, most catches in his career.
Yeah, and Matt Eberflus was asked about this actually in his press conference, and I don't recall which reporter asked the question, but they said, do you feel like you guys are coming out flat on defense? And he quickly said no, that he doesn't feel like they're coming out flat. But I think that question had to be asked. I mean, and to be honest, it's a question that still has to be raised because whether he thinks that or not, it seems to be what's happening. they're fantastic. They make these second half adjustments. Today was the first day they let up a touchdown in the second half through 5 games. That's fantastic. Yeah. But you got to do a little bit something in the first half.
So that's what I was going to point out, is that this team has made a lot of good adjustments at the half defensively throughout the season and in this game. But where I thought you were going was, you wanted Daboll as the head coach. They go Eberflus, which I'm fine with Eberflus. I like the early returns on him. But you would think, being a defensive coach, that would still be where your bread and butter is. And on that last drive where the Vikings just milked the clock, and just it looked like they were confident that was going to end at least in a field goal, right, which would have made it a much more interesting. Well, it was an interesting finish regardless, but by putting in 7 there and taking so much of that clock, they put the Bulls. My bad. The Bears.
It's a much better team.
We're jumping around now. I got another team to worry about. But no, I mean, that put the Bears in a position to have a final drive where you get to see, like, what's Fields and this offense going to do? Because we're going to talk about it. I mean, all in all, they made a huge step forward this game.
I mean, they were driving. They were letting Justin Fields throw the ball. It
clean pockets.
Good. And on that, I tweeted it out. I said, look, I don't care about the outcome of this drive, but I need to see Justin Fields get the ball in his hand, and I want to see them give him the reins. I want to see him throw the ball downfield. I want to see him make plays. And we saw it. And then, here's my second player, Amir Smith-Marsette. I had to remember your name because you're just a nothing on this team to me right now. You have made a crucial flag on a Justin Fields touchdown run of over 50 yards. And then you do this. You catch the ball. You're trying to make a revenge statement against the team that basically got rid of you. You catch the ball. You're fighting for yards. I get it. But you got to be smart. Get out of bounds. Get out of bounds in that spot.
You pointed out that he came from the Vikings. Is he a spy? Because you're ready to cut him.
I am. I said cut his ass.
With N'Keal Harry coming back soon, hopefully, maybe the Bears do cut him. The Vikings then re-sign him, and it turns out this was a ploy the whole time.
Oh, that happens.
Now we're going best case, worst case. That's that. This is us twist right there.
We haven't brought that one back yet. We will.
We are going to bring back a segment.
We are.
So we're going to break down more of the game.
And I wasn't here for this one.
So that's right. It's my second time doing it, but it'll be Rob's first. We're going to talk about pivotal players and pivotal plays in this game, and there were many of both.
Yes, there were. Both a negative and a positive standpoint. But.
So I talked about how right from the beginning the Vikings say, no, we're not going to kick off. We're going to take the ball. We're going to pound it down your throats, and we're going to go up 7-0, which they did. And then the Bears, maybe to our surprise, did exactly what we've been asking. Well, aside from starting the first drive that should probably be scripted with a delay of game. How do you do that?
You don't even have Blase in the game. Like, he's running in at the last minute. We were actually looking at it. We thought it said 25. We were like, was that Ebner?
Yeah.
But no, it was Blasingame coming in, and it's like...
So that was ridiculous and not hits. But...
Like, was he in the bathroom and, just couldn't get out there in time?
Well, then you got to go 10. But anyway... So that was kind of embarrassing.
They did convert on the very next
that's
play.
What I was going to say is they set up that easy completion, screen to Montgomery, gained about 30 yards, I want to say. Now, we talked about how it almost got tipped. They've thrown many screens where it was read like a book by the defense. But then you get a Komet catch. So right away, Field starts out 2 for 2. And Komet's in the game. So that's exactly what we've been asking for. Unfortunately, stalled out the drive, ended up getting a field goal. Mooney in the end zone and Fields, and you keep saying that these guys have that. We think they have that connection. Not a misread. I'm sorry, but just kind of a misread, almost on Mooney's part. I want to say.
Yeah, it was tough to see live. I'm going to be really interested to see what happens when I look at the All-22 this week, which we are bringing a new segment to the show. I'm going to really focus in on the Bears this weekend going forward, and I'm going to break down Justin Fields' All-22 tape as an individual podcast. It's going to be one of our Hallis Huddle shorts, and we're going to call it Fields Focused. And that way I can also leave one open for a player of the fans choosing, where I'm going to still put it out there. But I feel like every time I include Justin Fields on a poll, he's going to be the top.
So right? I'm not trying to rain on your parade, but I think you're going to have to only do the Fields one this week.
You're right.
Bears have a Thursday night game with Commanders.
Yeah.
Winnable game, but we'll get into that. So we're going to have to figure out how we're going to pod it. We want to hopefully get it out Friday morning to you guys, a breakdown of the game.
I might still try to get the all-22 breakdown from this game on an individual player for Friday.
I just don't want you to overwork yourself.
Just because the all-22 doesn't come out until Wednesday, which means the Thursday night game's not going to be out until the weekend anyway. So we'll see. There's no guarantee on that one. I'm also doing a soccer practice Friday night, so we'll see how that goes.
Like you keep saying, this is not our full-time gig.
It is not.
By any means.
If anyone wants to make it our full-time
there
gig,
you go.
Let me tell you, I'm going to keep throwing it out there. I'll speak it into existence.
I kind of want it, but you already said that if we go big, you're going to, extort money and frame me. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll just keep it a hobby.
Maybe we just go medium to big.
All right.
Not quite big. Right?
Yeah, there you go. Schmedium.
Yeah. By the way, I have to have a drink. For anyone who's watching this video.
Okay, sorry. So I want to plug what I wanted to do. I wanted to try to get a short in this week, and again, I just didn't have the time. But I did tell you before the game, so at least you can hopefully vouch for this. But I wanted to put out, Vikings win if, and Bears win if.
Yep.
And I'll be honest, I came in with very, very low expectations for the Bears being able to win. And they they had an opportunity.
They did.
But I said, Bears win if they win the turnover battle by 2 or more. And I'm going to talk. The reason I want to put this out here is because it's going to be kind of a theme through how we break down this game. Okay, that was one thing. Then I said Bears rushed for 150 plus yards. I'll have to look. Again, Fields ran for another 50 on his own, I want to say.
And it would have been 100 had it not been that.
And then
Play called back.
Because you're right.
Smith-Marsette again.
The back. That was a beautiful run.
Smith-Marsette off my team.
So I don't know if we're going to bring him up later as a pivotal play. He's obvious. He's too obvious. And then I said Bears win time of possession. I got to look it up, but at half, they only had the ball for 7 minutes and 28 seconds out of 30.
This game actually felt like the opposite script of what we've seen in the prior games. The Bears continuously have a higher time of possession, but yet can't put up points. Field goal. Right. So it'll be interesting to see where that number finished. I have not looked either.
I also got to just say, even though Fields and Mooney didn't connect in the end zone, I got to give a shout out to Mooney getting that pass interference on that double move. Yeah. Beautiful double move. Great throw by Fields. This is what happens when you have time to throw, time to run a deeper route, and we saw that amazing catch later in the game. So
Odell Beckham who? George Pickens
There you go. Can I just say one more random thing? And then, okay. So then
this is going to be kind of a ranted type podcast.
Well, I want to call back a lot of the things we've been critical of them to see if they're making the right type of adjustments. Mm-hmm. So when we keep saying get Fields early, easy completions, they tried to do that and they did that.
Yeah, we.
And I think that helped him build confidence that rode out throughout the game. So another one, it happened way later in the game, but last week Velus Jones has his premiere, doesn't see a snap on offense. You're telling me you don't have a package of plays ready for this guy? Oh, how about this one that everyone in the league runs where the quarterback throws the ball 1 inch and gets credited with a touchdown because this guy can turn the ball up the field. He's hard to bring down. Schlereth cracked me up on his review of that play. He says, and he doesn't get his knee. His balls go across the end line. Well, that's a touchdown.
Knees were up
and the balls were across the line. So, but that's exactly what we were asking for. So it does seem like they're thinking through this stuff the same way we are. Not to say that we're NFL gurus or geniuses, but some of this stuff is elementary.
Right.
Just get those stats. So that's a touchdown reception for Velus Jones on his first career catch. That's a touchdown pass for Fields. That was great to see.
I got to shout out to Peter again. Peter, you just keep getting all these shout outs, but Baloney tweeted at us after the last podcast saying how we finally figured out how sex sells as my butt was showing because I had to fix our backdrop. And clearly you're continuing with this explicit content. It's not on me this time, bringing up
that's true.
The knees up and the
that's
balls.
Right. I try. It's hard to tweet during the game, and really for me anyway. And I had to tweet that one out. Yes. I don't know where he was going with that. They almost reviewed that play, but it was a clear touchdown. So, what else you got that came out at you from this game? Another one I have to say.
Okay.
So they had the ball. Bears 3rd and 8 from the 9, going in for a score. What do they call a running back draw to Montgomery. It works.
Yeah.
He scores.
Yeah.
And I wrote, we better talk about that because had that been stuffed,
Yeah.
what would our reaction have been?
What are you doing, Luke Getsy? It would be the one of the what the moments, right?
So we can't go both ways. Yeah. So
no,
how do you look at that?
Maybe it
you zig when they zag.
Maybe it's one of those things where eventually, you pound it, and eventually it starts to work. I do think it's better that we have, as much as we joke about the David Montgomery, which, by the way, his name is now David Montgomery. As much as we joke about the fact, or not joke, I mean, we're serious when we say, look, he's just not somebody we expect to be back next year because the position is just not valued the way that it should be. And we've seen Khalil Herbert just come out and play. But David Montgomery wasn't even supposed to play this week. He comes back. Khalil Herbert barely touched the ball, right? Yeah. I mean, it was a very small number of snaps when you think about it. I thought it would be a flipped script. I was actually one to say start Khalil Herbert, even if Montgomery played. I thought he'd be on a snap count, on a pitch count, but clearly that wasn't the case. I had that completely wrong. Good thing I had neither. We had David Montgomery. We didn't play him.
Should have.
Yeah, Najee Harris that was, I mean, it's hard to say to not play Najee Harris over a hurt David Montgomery.
True.
Who, by the way, hurt us the week that he did get hurt, but I don't like using that as we've talked about it. We don't like using injuries as a reason to be upset about fantasy. So it's one reason why it's difficult to even play fantasy.
We're veering here, and I hope the listeners are starting to appreciate how organic this is. But how different is our fantasy team if we draft Nick Chubb right where we drafted Najee Harris?
We talked about it in the one podcast.
We were doing too much. The power outage and the other thing. Yeah, we just missed, man.
I think next year, guys, I don't think we're going to live podcast. I just think it
was too much.
It was
too much.
Sorry, UFFL fans who enjoyed it.
We're just going to kind of throw out a few nuggets. My notes are scattered, but I got to call this out. I got to. And I'm ice. You're fire. The people watching, you saw me try to cool him down a few times. This is going to get you going again, man.
Uh-oh.
Fields' numbers, completion percentage was up. I know you're big on that. How many of those incompletions were boneheaded drops?
Dante Pettis, you're no longer on my starting lineup.
Right.
You're not. Yeah, I'm not cutting you.
I'm trying to cool you down.
Cutting you, Dante Pettis. But where was Amon-Ra St. No, I'm sorry. I wish we had Amon-Ra St. Brown. Where was Equanimous St. Brown?
We could have traded him for Bagley.
Had he ran that route, he has shown he's making those catches this year. I can't wait for N'Keal Harry to come back, and I really want to see what he can bring. And even then, he's already labeled a bust. Can you imagine if we had a wide receiver 1 on this team? Can you imagine? I can.
I'm laughing because now I feel like we could just retitle this podcast Fire and Ice, and I can just keep throwing things out that get you going. Because I got another one.
Bring it.
I feel like the O-line created many, many clean pockets, gave time for deeper routes, and Fields delivered. And specifically the guy that we've talked a lot about and have loved what we're seeing is Tevin Jenkins. Mm-hmm. I think per play he was ranked as one of the top linemen in the whole league. What about that hold he got called for?
Oh, my gosh. Oh, you want to call a hold on that? That was pure strength. Pure strength.
Inside the shoulder pads.
He didn't even grab. It was just pushing. Oh, the guy. Tevin Jenkins is a monster. That call was BS. Complete BS. Never should have been called. Why this guy hasn't been starting?
Well, he is
Lucas
now.
Patrick.
He is
but
now.
only because Cody Whitehair's out.
But
what's going to happen in 4 weeks, 5 weeks?
He'll have proven his value by then.
I don't know. Does he not practice well on Wednesday?
You want Mustipher out. By then, Mustipher's out because Patrick's your center.
I sure as hell hope so.
And now I think the injury to Whitehair might be the only reason they don't go to that, but it seems like you have to.
I'm still putting in
because Braxton Jones looks good, right?
Yeah, I mean
he's
a fifth round draft pick, but he's better 5th round draft pick than Larry Borum. Let me tell you, Braxton Jones has looked way better in the 5 games that we have seen him than what I have seen from Larry Borum over the last 2 years. I don't care. You guys want to be Larry Borum fans? That's fine. I have sat here and said how inconsistent that guy has been since the beginning. I feel like he's overrated by way too many Bears fans. He's not bad, but he's average. And you can upgrade there. I'm not worried about upgrading right tackle next year. I think that's a possibility, and I think it needs to happen.
Oh, it will. But I'm talking this year. Why is Riley Reif not able to outplay the production out of Borum? I mean, if Borum hits and he's a younger player,
Right.
you're happy about the progression he makes for your future.
And I think,
But if he's not producing,
I think they're looking big picture. I hope they're looking big picture.
but then you just said it though. You would easily be happy with them using a second or a third next year
Right.
to get a right tackle that you would then want to play over Borum anyway.
I'd be happy if they just brought in a veteran like a Riley.
That's
Reed.
true. They have the most space. Yeah. Well, that's my point. You have a veteran.
Maybe they're just looking to keep options open, and they figure if Borum develops, then they don't have to spend there.
Well, here's the thing. I know you're all 22 on Fields. Will reveal some things about the line as well.
It will.
So we want to know. I'll be listening. I want to know like which of the linemen are giving up pressures. I didn't feel today like it was. It wasn't a bunch of jailbreaks at Fields.
This was the best
time.
pass blocking performance we have seen from the offensive line.
And does that get some people off the ledge about Fields? I mean, I don't care. You can be wherever you want. I think some of these Bears fans out there are just nutso, but
people are already saying they're going to be replacing him next year in the draft, and I just don't see it.
Okay. You and I don't even totally agree on this. If you asked me, did Ryan Poles do enough to help Fields in this offseason? I would say probably not, but I don't see where he could have done a whole lot more. I mean, there was a barren cupboard when he got here.
My only, and I'm getting.
I know you wanted him to draft Pickens.
Was George Pickens.
Okay,
but Darnell Mooney.
So
George Pickens who? Okay,
George Pickens came with red flags that caused other teams to skip over him as well.
Seeing it,
right? So I don't know, and that team with a young quarterback, like they had Trubisky. That's kind of ironic, but they started Pickett today and got completely creamed. So I don't see that Pickens didn't make some huge difference there. So yeah, that's a debate right there. But some moves don't look like they're panning out, but a whole lot of what he's done has this team playing competitive football. I mean, I was worried. They're down 21-3, and we're thinking, oh boy, this is, I mean, you remember the Trestman Bears, some of the losses were 50 plus. Yeah. But no, they're down 21-3 early after the Vikings' first 3 drives. And then to be up 22-21 in the fourth quarter, now they didn't finish. That's unfortunate. That's a sign of a young team and a bonehead play because he gets stripped. But that shows he didn't even have the right mindset. He should have been trying to get out of bounds, and he had that.
Yeah, they had a little over 2 minutes to play, right?
We'll break that one down further.
That was the play after the 2-minute warning.
Right? Yeah. They were moving it. They had a chance. So just the fact that we ended up talking about this game down to the final drive of the fourth quarter when they were down 21-3, that tells you, like, there's some buy-in, there's some pride. People are playing for – because let's be honest, with all that cap space, some of that's going to go to guys who are on this team that they want to keep.
And I do have to, Brian Dable was my number one coach pick, okay? Ryan Poles was my number one GM pick. I got to put faith in my GM. I do. Matt Eberflus was 7th. I've said this many times. But I do appreciate the discipline, and we've talked about it over and over and over again. And the hits principle is clearly being bought into by certain players. Maybe not the whole team, but at least enough, right? Like maybe Tevin Jenkins is the one that's not buying into it, and that's part of the reason why he's on the bench. But
at some point, his play, though,
you can't.
Speaks.
Yeah, you. The game matters more than practice. I'm sorry. You guys want to listen to my Allen Iverson impression? Go listen to the first episode of the House Huddle Shorts because I did an AI impression. Not as good as AI himself, but it was pretty darn close. But I have to admit, as much as I want to scream, and it's irritating to me that we have a defensive-minded coach, and it's like I got to at least give it time. It's 5 games into a new regime. As much as I want to overthink everything, I'm the crazy one. I'm fired. Like we talked about it. Like when I was texting back and forth with Justin and our buddy Bob Weiss, who was on the show for week 1. Like I was the one that was going, they're not buying into Fields. They don't want him to succeed. Blah, blah, blah. Like I was the one being crazy and irrational. They calmed me down. Like they brought me back to reality.
Yeah, you were giving me the live version of what Bears Twitter can be.
Yes. Maybe even Bears Facebook. I was getting pretty crazy.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, I don't even want to know Bears MySpace. What would that be?
That would be just not existent. Maybe just a continuation of Bear Down, Chicago Bears.
A couple covers, maybe.
Yeah.
So. So, I mean, I think we hit on a lot of key things, and with us breaking down later pivotal plays and pivotal players, we're going to go back over a lot of other things. So, in addition to that, we're going to look ahead to on a short week.
Yeah, very short.
Thursday night next week against the Commanders. So, is now the time for a break?
I think so. Enjoy these ads.
Thanks.
Bear down.
Welcome back to the Hallis Huddle, episode 16, breaking down the Week 5 loss to the Minnesota Vikings. This is Justin Oniemi, co-hosting with Rob Schwarz. We're going to bring back a segment that first premiered in Week 1 when I was co-hosting with Bob Weiss, so this is my second time doing it, but it's Rob's first. We're going to go with pivotal players, pivotal plays. And this is where we're going to talk about, obviously, key moments in the game, either or perhaps key performances throughout, and how those contributed to the outcome of the game, or how they maybe could have changed the outcome of the game, because I think that's where a lot of these things kind of come up. So why don't you kick us off, Rob, with a pivotal player?
Yeah, so I focus more on the pivotal players. Justin focused more on the pivotal plays. I think when we do this, a lot of times things will kind of come out as we continue to go. Because some of the people that I bring up might have had a pivotal play, and some of the times I might not consider that player pivotal to the game, but maybe they did make a pivotal play. So just to get this guy out of the way, because I've mentioned him enough, Ihmir Smith-Marsette negatively impacted this game. He was a pivotal player in a negative way. He gone. I'm done.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about it more. Two humongously pivotal plays. The block in the back on what could have been a 50-yard touchdown run. And then when you need to just step out of bounds, you need to be smart enough, hits principle, to know that time was your enemy at that point. You're right on the sideline, step out of bounds. Not only does he not do that, turnover cost them the game. So too easy for both of us, both in terms of pivotal player and pivotal plays. I'm going to kind of try, I think, to go through my notes here and go chronologically throughout the game. So the reason why I brought up what the Bears needed to do to win this game is it kind of frames some of the key pivotal plays I was pointing out. So I said, again, this is a theme I think we're going to have to get used to here, Chicago Bears fans, but you don't have the talent of the Minnesota Vikings. You don't have the depth of the Minnesota Vikings. I was praying that flying back from London would have some kind of impact, and I don't think that only if we won would we even be maybe wondering about that. But you had to win the turnover battle. So early in the game, after a deep punt, Bears force a fumble. It's right in the hands, I don't know his name, number 45.
Zach Thomas.
Okay, Zach.
No,
you wanted to talk about him too.
Yeah,
So on your bounce back, you can talk about him. But it's in your hands. You grab that. You have great field position. At this point, I think I wish I wrote down exactly when that was.
Wrong first name. They did have a Zach Thomas on the team also. He's on the practice squad. It's Joe Thomas.
So you had the chance to just totally change the momentum of that game if you recover. And this is the theme we've been talking about. Bears are forcing the ball to the ground, and I know you're not. I mean, it's a oddly shaped ball that bounces all sorts of different ways, so it's not easy to recover these things. But you can't keep missing these opportunities.
It was in his hands.
So that was a pivotal play.
In his hands. And the defender...
A pivotal non-play. Get used to me calling out those. There were a lot of non-plays the Bears made that were pivotal to the outcome.
And again, we're talking about fumbles that these guys just can't recover. This is something that even Matt Eberflus said they practice. They practice a country fumble versus a city fumble. And, being able to pick up a ball that's, moving... versus picking up a ball and that's on the ground and they practice, there's different techniques that you do. This bounced into his hands and he just let it get ripped right out.
So we'll have to see how long Eberflus lasts in with the Bears, because you'll have to start working on suburban fumbles when they go out to Arlington
Heights. No, it was definitely a negative impacted play, because had they got that, I mean, who knows
exactly. That's points. They end up scoring 7 where you might have gotten 3.
Right.
That's a 10-point swing.
Yeah.
You actually turn it into 7. That's a 14-point swing. So huge play in the game, or huge non-play by the Bears. Why don't you give us another pivotal player?
We're just going to keep going down the line of people I keep yelling at. Sam Mustipher, I want to swear, he's going to have I'm giving him a middle name, and it's going to be a curse word. I don't know. Sam Mustipher, you got to go. I'm not going to fire you. I'm not cutting you. You're going to the bench. Go to the bench. That snap. Just, and he had a bad holding penalty in the game. I'm going to have to watch the All-22 when I watch Justin Fields, when I break him down. But my guess is there was probably even more. Again, they did have a better pass blocking game. So nothing really stood out horribly like it did the week before.
Right. As a unit, I felt they were better. I wasn't able to break down each guy.
No.
There was pressure one time that came from the right, and I kind of thought, was that my boy Jenkins? And I think we decided that was Borum.
Yeah, it was. And it was also...
In the preseason, they were falling for stunts every single time. And I feel like they've done a better job of picking up and handing off some of those blocks.
Right.
And,
it's just frustrating. He's got to go. I don't know why he's starting. That's the end of it.
All right. I must have been joking here. It's a joke, but Velus Jones, early in the game, decides to run out a kickoff from like 2 yards deep and only gets it out to the 12 or something. And we're like, what the heck? So then the next time they kick off to us, it was a touchback, and I wrote pivotal play, just take the damn touchback. So I can't get too mad at my boy Velus because, like I said, his first career reception, you give him that jet sweep, he takes it in for 6.
If we're looking at advanced...
6 only because they went for 2.
Yeah. If we're looking at advanced efficiency stats, that's fantastic for his part as an offensive player. So,
can I get one more? Because that was kind of a fake one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this was a pivotal play, and it led to us having a funny tweet that we put out there that actually might have gotten some attention. But Justin Jones on 3rd and 4 makes a great inside pressure and gets a sack. And at this point, the Vikings, the Bears weren't stopping them at all. Mm-hmm. And he gets the sack, and then we say, hey, now we can find out if the Vikings have a punter. This was already the second quarter, and they hadn't even come close to needing to punt. So pivotal play right there by Justin Jones.
So that was a funny tweet. And then we backed up that tweet with, well, this is what happens when your punter doesn't see the field until almost halftime.
Exactly. He shanks it.
Is a pivotal player of mine. The only one that I brought up for the Vikings. I am not talking about Justin Jefferson. I am not talking about Kirk Cousins. Not talking about Delvin Cook. I hate you all.
Sebastian Janikowski's cousin?
Yeah, the fridge. Okay? The refrigerator wannabe Perry basically takes a punt, shanks it, and it leads to points for the Chicago Bears. They had great field position. They turned it into points.
All right, then I'm going to go one more pivotal play. We're going to categorize this as all the pivotal plays that involve punters. The Bears had a great punt. Got down to the 1 yard line. Should have been downed there. I mean, I know you're running full speed, but he kind of wasn't. I don't know which player it was. He was down there, able to down it. Downs it. It trickles into the end zone. So, again, the Bears were already trailing at this point pretty bad. You pin them at the 1, that can change the game. Instead, you let them out to the 20. So, pivotal play again, pivotal non-play by the Bears there.
Yeah, it was Josh Blackwell, defensive back, who's actually been pretty good on special teams for them. I was kind of hoping there would have been a guy there because he recovered and got it to stop, but then there was no one there to down it, and it just ended up going back in. Definitely not one of my pivotal players, but let's go to a pretty obvious one, Darnell Mooney. You know what? As I talk, I'm actually going to look up to see what his actual stats were.
It's not as good as you think.
But we talked about it already. George Pickens who? Odell Beckham who? That catch by him, that one-handed grab, that is an ESPN highlight. That better be considered one of the top catches of the year. He comes back with a second good game, right? He struggled the first 3 weeks, comes back with a much better game last week, has another decent game this week. A few key catches here and there. You know, we talked about it earlier. They had whether it was a miscommunication, whether it was Justin Fields felt pressure on his blind side and rushed the ball, threw it too soon before Mooney broke his route, ended up being short. I didn't get a chance to listen to Justin Fields' press conference. If it was brought up, I'd love to know what that was. I'm definitely going to have to listen to it prior to the All-22 film breakdown. Just so everybody knows, let's see. He finished with 5 targets, 4 catches, 94 yards.
Who?
Darnell Mooney.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a little better than I thought. But
Wait, no, I lied. That was against the Giants. That was last week.
I was gonna say he didn't have that, my man.
They have not updated this.
Hold
on
on.
Pro Football Reference.
Yeah, let's just go to your run of the mill.
I'm really getting disappointed with Pro Football Reference. I have called them out now twice in my All-22 breakdown, where they say things like Kyler Gordon only had one target. And that wasn't the case when I did the All-22 breakdown. He let up 2 completions and had multiple.
All right. I'll cite my source so you can be mad at them if this is not right. But CBS box score.
Sure. There we go.
Mooney had 5 targets.
Okay.
2 catches. 52 yards. And the long one was 39. So that stat sheet isn't great, which actually brings me to this. Maybe this can be a segment that's ongoing throughout the whole.
He had more than 2 catches. There's no way that's correct. I can recall more than 2 catches.
Did any get called back?
Oh, maybe.
So real quick, though, this can be a segment that's ongoing throughout our podcast here. But you already know that I kind of don't like that little 1-inch throw counts as receiving yards. I want them to take that out of the stat sheet. Yeah. I want that, I don't know, count as a run, I guess.
Although I like that.
Well, finally when the Bears do it, okay, I could become a fan of this. But here's another one I want to see, like a weird, and maybe these next gen stats do keep track of this. But Mooney's numbers there don't sound so good, but he picked up 2 deep down the field pass interferences.
Yeah.
Which I feel like sometimes those almost should get credited into a quarterback stats or a receiver stats. It's one of the reasons I always do feel like, especially when you're struggling as an offense, it's still important to throw it deep every once in a while. It's just as beneficial to get a 43-yard pass interference play as a completion. It doesn't count in your stats, but he had that double move where they definitely pass interfered with him. I don't know. Can you think of a second one off the top of your head?
They had the one.
That's why I feel like
the double move was the one where I said that he kind of had the brick hands, right? That was that same pass. I think that was the only one that I recall. And now that you said about the penalty, I'm wondering if one of the catches that I recall him having was also when there was the holding penalty on Sam Mustipher. But
so
it'll come out when I watch the film.
This is going to be a burst of pivotal plays, and I'm just going to throw them all out there and let you respond, and then hopefully it leads to a little back and forth.
And it might have some of my pivotal players. So
let's see. I don't know. I don't know if it will.
All right, well, let's find out.
All right, so this is like a boom, 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 boom burst of pivotal plays.
Fire and ice. Ham and cheese.
They finally decide, hey, you know what? This guy with all this athleticism reminds us a little bit of Cordell Patterson. Why don't we throw a 1-inch pass to him on a jet sweep? Velus Jones, touchdown. Followed by the decision to go for 2.
Okay.
Pivotal play. Followed by an onside kick.
Yeah.
So, yes, I'm just going to throw that all at you and get your responses on how pivotal that portion of the game was and were those decisions the right decisions.
So as we were watching, the announcers actually brought up the 2-point conversion, and they were kind of questioning it. And at the time, it didn't make any sense to question it because
I love that decision.
Yeah, it is the decision because had they got the conversion, right, they would have only been down 3.
Yes.
Either way, they were going to be down a touchdown. So,
and I know the 3 would only give you the tie, but it still means like either way you need a touchdown to take the lead,
right.
But a field goal gets you the tie.
And we're talking way early in the third quarter.
Which that's why some people don't like it. Some people go with the philosophy you don't go for 2 until you have to go for 2. But I feel like at that point, it made perfect sense. They didn't end up getting it, and that didn't crush them.
No.
They still were able to take the lead.
And you watch football enough. I watch football enough. I'm sure our listeners watch football enough. There are so many swings in a game as far as, like, you know, who has the edge, right? Like, something could happen. For example, the Darnell Mooney catch on the sideline, when he made that catch, they said, like, that caused, like, them to just, like, completely change their mindset after that catch. They ended up scoring on that drive, got the ball back in the second half. Like, they were rolling. So it made sense to go for the 2 points there because you're rolling. I didn't really care for the play call very much.
I didn't like the play call. I actually thought the guy might have grabbed, was it Pettis?
No.
St. Brown? I don't know who caught. It might have been your boy, ISM. Well, we'd have to watch who they threw it to, but I did not like the play call.
No, it was definitely Pettis, and it was Patrick Peterson who was on him, if I recall correctly. And he did kind of grab him because he almost looked like he over pursued, and went to go like for the run or maybe the rollout, and then kind of grabbed to pull himself back. But it was a one read play where it looked like the inside guy actually had the
So
open.
that's the second. There were 2 reads. I felt like that inside one had to be your first because it was actually in the end zone.
Right.
Whereas
Or-
this guy had to catch it and still get 3-4 yards to get across the line.
which he might have just been a decoy slash
Yeah, it
blocker.
didn't. I didn't like the play, but I did like the play, the decision.
Yeah.
Or I was okay with the decision. I would have been fine.
No, the
Well,
decision was correct.
actually, no. I wanted them to go for 2 because we talked about it right then and there.
We said it before they even scored. Like it made sense. Now the onside kick, I understand being a little bit aggressive, but it just didn't seem like the right place and time.
No, it didn't because you kicked that deep because you said that's not having faith in the defense. Right. I mean, obviously, if you recover, oh my gosh, what a gutsy play, and now
Right.
you have the momentum and blah blah blah.
And I know Adam Hogue tweeted that he actually liked the call, and he said that there was, they almost got it, but like almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. So
There's another part to that saying, but, and even with explicit, I don't go that route. But anyway, I didn't like it. You kick deep. A lot of these kicks these days are touchbacks. I mean,
and
that's
they had the momentum.
Well, it was the first drive of the second half for your defense.
Yep.
And we keep talking about the trend this year has been that the defense in the second half has been making adjustments.
Right.
I don't know if they are more in shape than their opponents, but they haven't been giving up scores in the third and fourth quarter. Now you start them at the 48 or 47 or something like that,
right?
Which I think the defense did actually step up, and that led to a blocked field goal.
And maybe I have it wrong. Maybe Eberflus had that much faith in his defense.
That's the other way to look at it. Because that's what we were saying was, let's say they advanced the ball enough to get a field goal. They didn't really take up that much time,
right? And
you get the ball right back. Yeah. That's another way to look at it. Now, if they march right down and score a touchdown, whoops.
Then it looks really bad.
It looks horrible.
Yeah.
So, brings me to another pivotal play. Blocked field goal. At first glance, I thought it was Kyler Gordon coming around the edge. Then on the replay, I believe it was Dominique Robinson, which... I think every game, every game, you're going to get 2 things from us. You're going to get the breakdown of Sam Mustipher missed snaps and the breakdown of Dominique Robinson making big impact plays. Yeah. So pivotal play there with the blocked field goal.
And that should have been a pivotal player on my list. I did not have him because he made some plays too. No sacks or anything, but he just some key run stops and he was just flying around, and he definitely looks like a guy who should have been drafted higher. I know he was raw, but he looks like a guy who should have been drafted higher.
Because you said he's raw, but to me, that's always where organizations typically go, oh, we're going to coach this guy up, and we're going to get everything out of him. And that seems to be what the Bears are doing. Yeah. Why don't I toss it back, though, to you for another guy that plays similar position who had a pivotal performance?
Yeah, Travis Gibson, again. He kind of disappeared last week. The whole defensive line disappeared last week, and the defensive line disappeared in the first half. I'm getting very frustrated with Robert Quinn. And it's just frustrating to see that the front 4 can never seem to get pressure.
And if the front 4 is not getting pressure and you schematically pretty much opt never to blitz, that's giving quarterbacks too much. I mean, his 17 for 17, how many times did he have to even go to a second read?
No, maybe twice. It was bad. And it was to the point where we were talking about, do they ever blitz? And I did say that they picked up the blitz more, or they threw more blitzes at Houston, which seemed to affect Davis Mills. You would think that you'd want to do that and get pressure on Kirk Cousins, because he's not the type of quarterback that folds under pressure, but he's also the type of quarterback that can beat the hell out of you if you give him too much time.
Absolutely.
But Gibson seemed to be flying around the ball in the second half too. You could just sense the energy shift, both to the offense and the defense. That energy shift sometimes can mean a lot, especially for an underdog team that doesn't quite have the talent that the other team has. And that's who the Bears are right now.
So that's unfortunately with these pivotal plays, what it ultimately leads to is some of the ones I've been throwing out there, calling them pivotal non-plays. When you're the team that doesn't have the talent, you can't leave plays on the field. No. And granted, in a game of, every game, both teams are going to feel like they left plays out on the field. I'm sure the Vikings still are going to say they left plays out there as well. But when you're the less talented team, you got to make these little plays that can change the game, and the Bears just didn't. Real quick, back-to-back open field tackles by Kyler Gordon to force a 4th and 4, and I believe, so then the Vikings actually went for it on 4th and 4. That's when they converted on a crap call.
Yeah.
And then our boy Vildor gets a amazing pick. 12 minutes and 44 seconds left in the game. Bears have the ball at their own 48, down 21-19. This was a game they were down 21-3. So why don't you talk about those? Another batch of plays where Kyler Gordon looked good and Vildor got the pick.
So those back-to-back plays, actually, he had a play, I want to say it was just 2 plays prior, where he made a really good play as well. Someone tweeted out Kyler Gordon for Defensive Player of the Year, or Rookie Defensive Player of the Year.
Hadn't listened to your All-22, I'm guessing.
Yeah, probably not. And I said that Kyler Gordon's game last week was still his best of the season. And he looked good this game, too. To be honest, they didn't pick on Gordon as much as I thought because they didn't have Gordon lining up on Justin Jefferson one-on-one. He was on Jalen Jones. We'll talk about him in a second. But he looked good. He made 2 key plays. It wasn't enough for me to put him on my pivotal player list. He didn't do enough to like, yes, you were awesome, or you were horrible. He just I like the progression that we've seen from him for the last 2 weeks, and I'm really hoping that leads to me to stop bringing up George Pickens.
Exactly. I would love that because I'm tired of hearing it. So Rob was sticking mostly to the pivotal players. I was sticking to the pivotal plays, but that's why I was able to come up with this out-of-the-box pivotal player. And I'm going to say Jaylon Johnson not suiting up became a pivotal player because we went in with very little hope of the Bears winning this game, and that news even tipped it further to like this won't happen, which did force. Is it Jaylon Jones?
Jaylon Jones.
See, they tried to get as many of the letters in Jaylon Johnson's name into the player that replaced him so that he might play like him. I mean, they had like the whole first name, and you got the J and the O in the last name, but
I guess I just don't.
Jefferson wasn't fooled.
Right. Yeah, no, not at all. And I guess I just don't understand why you have an undrafted free agent who has struggled. Okay, we saw him struggle last week. We really saw him struggle this week. And I get it. Justin Jefferson is a very, very good player. I mean, like, way, way good player. Like, top of the line, most people had him as their wide receiver 1 heading into the season, okay? So, to put a UDFA on him, and we were talking about it a lot, like, and they did make adjustments in the second half. I think he had less than 30 yards
That's a
receiving
theme.
In the second half.
Yeah, in the second half, 2 or 3 catches for
It was like 28 yards.
negligible amount of yards. Yep.
But what's frustrating is, like, you're not helping this guy out. He's an undrafted free agent who, like, he wasn't even your starting corner or your second string corner going into the season. It was Lamar Jackson. Where's Lamar Jackson? Why is he not
Playing in Baltimore?
No, he's scoring touchdowns.
Wrong guy. Wrong guy.
But yeah,
So
he was a
actually,
pivotal player.
okay, I gotta mention this, and I'm gonna sound a little naive here. I'm a fan. I never played football. I've watched a whole lot of it. I think I know a decent amount. But you make all sorts of adjustments to basically shut Jefferson down in the second half. You're telling me you didn't know he was a good player to kind of focus on in the first half?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's not enough to call it a pivotal play, but there was a 3rd and 2, and they have Vildor right up on the line, press coverage on Jefferson. He easily blows by him, and then Eddie Jackson kind of rotates over slowly.
Yeah.
No. He's your main focus.
He just killed the zone.
You have to have 2 guys on him in almost any scenario, and then let some other guy. Because clearly he was going to be the first read of Cousins. And like I said, how many times did he even have to look at his second read?
Right.
Eliminate that. Let some other guy beat you. It wasn't happening. Then in the second half, all of a sudden they're able to do it.
Well, and it's becoming a theme because we saw it against the Giants too. We knew the Giants were going to do a bunch of bootleg rollouts, like naked bootleg rollouts. And it was like the Chicago Bears didn't plan for it at all until halftime. Like,
we get off the bus letting teams do exactly what we think they're going to do.
Yeah.
Then we make the adjustments. So,
and I got to give them credit for the adjustments. Like, that was one thing we hated about the last regime. But
so I almost never. Mostly we keep this to the Bears, but and again, it's more of a package of pivotal plays. But down in the final drive of the Vikings, not the kneel down drive, obviously, but the final drive where they scored the touchdown to take the lead, they milked the clock, almost gave the Bears nothing, but made a few weird decisions with the clock. Where they threw that ball behind Jefferson. He tries to one-hand it, which he probably catches 100 passes a day with one hand. So but if he just possesses that and stays in bounds, the clock keeps going or the Bears have to burn a timeout. Then the next one was a run. I want to say Cook, but Madison was getting a bunch of carries too.
Mm-hmm.
The guy runs out of bounds. So 2 bonehead plays in my mind in terms of clock management. You never know. The clock wasn't the reason the Bears weren't able to complete this comeback. It was the bonehead, most pivotal play of all that we already talked about. You don't go out of bounds and you end up getting stripped and you lose the game in a demoralizing way. Just like last week, to lose it on a muff punt. It felt just as deflating.
And the defense kind of fell short, too, on that last drive because there was a few
they converted,
third downs that they
5
just
or
weren't
so.
able to stop. And had they been able to do that, who knows? My screaming might be all happy joys of, tears of joy right now instead of me wanting guys to be cut tomorrow. So I'm just going to quickly go through the guys that I have left on my pivotal player game because we're getting close to.
Yeah, we want to preview very briefly the Commanders game.
Yeah, so I had Cairo Santos. He hit 2 50-plus yard field goals. And then Justin Fields. I think this might have been his best game still. I mean, it was still a step up from what we saw last week. And I think that, again, has to do with how the pocket was. The decision-making was there. It could have been even a lot better. I told Justin I was very surprised that he didn't have over 200 yards passing. Like, that shocked me.
So he did have a clean pocket, and when he did, delivered some very nice throws. There were some designed runs to him. There was one where we're pretty sure that was a quarterback draw where he froze like a statue and then ran. I felt like how exaggerated the freeze was what made me think that was a design draw. It was on a 3rd and 4.
And you called it live, and I was the opposite. I was like, "What? Who's blocking who?" And no, when we watched the replay, you definitely called it right.
So I think there were some design runs. He scrambled well a few times and delivered some really nice passes. And I believe was showing the poise in a 2-minute drill that with all of it on the line, and I'm not even talking about legendary quarterbacks. I'm not talking about like the greats of all time, but just when you want to see that you have a quarterback that you can win because of and win with, you want him to be able to help you on a 2-minute drive to either tie or win the game. I really would have loved to have found out had they been able to put in for 6. Is this a situation you kick 1 to tie at 29-29 with, a few seconds on the clock, or do you go for 2 for the win? We'll never know. We will never know.
I'm just kidding.
I would love to know. Now you can't ask Eberflus now because it's too much of a hypothetical what if. So that would have been cool.
My last pivotal player, and it's a -1, was Dante Pettis. Another drop in this game, 2 drops in this game, and that's coming off of the 3rd drop from last game. So he had 3 in a row.
He's in there for his blocking, apparently.
Yeah, and I like his blocking, but no, this can't.
His right hand keeps blocking his left hand.
Apparently.
From catching.
Apparently.
Yeah, I think we hit all of the key plays and key players. So let's just quickly talk Thursday night, both from the perspective of the Bears and what it might mean for the Hallis Huddle.
So from the Bears' perspective, and again, this is a rebuilding year, so I'm going to say something and people are going to be like, you're crazy, Rob. From a season standpoint, this is a must-win game for the Chicago Bears. For them to go down 2-4, you might as well just say their season's done. Now the national media is starting to look correct. Are they ever going to get that 3rd win? Can they get the 4th? At that point, I don't know, because the Commanders are not a good football team. Carson Wentz is not the Carson Wentz that we saw prior to the back injury when he was with Philly and looked like an MVP. I've never been high on him, but he just doesn't have it. The Commanders, they're just not that good of a football team. Tennessee, it looked to me like they were possibly just running all over them, which I would expect a big game out of Montgomery, which we better play him next week, and Khalil Herbert. It's going to be an interesting matchup. The Bears, they need to come away with a win and stay at 3-3. The Vikings are now, the Packers luckily lost. And the Lions luckily lost, so it's still a close division.
So wait, I gotta just interject here. You mentioned this before the Bears game had started because Packers-Giants was in London. I never know what that means. Weird things seem to happen over there. So that game was completely final before the Bears even started. And what you said was, wow, this close loss the Bears had to the Giants now. Are the Giants good? Are the Packers not so good? And again, that's not a question for us to answer right now. But if the Bears had won today, you're 3-2. The Bears would be 3-2. The Vikings would be 3-2, and the Packers would be 3-2.
Yeah, and so I think the answer to that is it's a little bit of both. I think the Giants are better than what a lot of people thought, including myself.
That's because Saquon Barkley is back to
beast and
top
Brian
5
Dable. Brian Dable.
Okay, it could be that too.
And who's there? Is it Mike Kafka? Is his offensive coordinator? I think it's Mike Kafka. Anyway, and then the Packers just aren't the Packers anymore. Like, they're not as good as what they've been in the past.
Time to take the North.
They're starting to see their decline.
This isn't the year, but time to take the North maybe next year.
And never give it back.
But so winnable game on Thursday night. Amazon Prime is hoping for a much better overall performance than what we saw with Denver and Indy, which was set football back a few decades. And now they have Bears Commanders. So a lot of people are joking, maybe it won't get so much better. But you see what the Bears did today? You bring that type of effort. You're at home, short week. This should be a win, like you said. You're 3-3. Then they go primetime again, back-to-back weeks. The NFL was brave putting the Bears back-to-back primetime. They go Monday night to the Patriots. Not getting all the way to that, but that's possibly a winnable game.
Yeah, but they just shut out the Lions, so we'll have to see how things go.
We don't think much of the Lions on this show. So
we don't, but they have showed some stuff on offense, put up some numbers
that the Bears haven't.
Exactly. But maybe there's been a shift. You watch a graph and you'll just see like there's been a shift and the Bears are gonna do better. So
this show is always fun to shoot with you, Rob.
Same.
But unfortunately, it wasn't as fun as if the Bears had either come back and won that game or made us wonder if a 1-point or 2-point conversion at the end there. But we never got that far because of a bonehead play. So unfortunately, it was a Bears loss we're talking about today.
Yeah.
But all in all, fun show.
Yes.
Nice work, my friend.
Fire and ice.
Fire and ice, baby. Warm water.
Bear down, everybody.
Have a great week.